This is the Heroes Podcast. I'm so happy to be back. Elisa, how are you?
I'm great, Andre. How you doing?
Well, I was really looking forward to have this interview with you because of the giveaway that you have organized for a lot of people to make change. But before we go into that, and that will be later, I really wanted to let everyone know who you are and introduce you and then get your story. So, Alicia is the transformation movement. She is leading transformation movement. She's the founder of Inspiration by Elisa, a transformational speaker, published author, and certified life and health coach. She helps exhausted professionals who are not living the life they want to confidently put themselves first so they can achieve their goals and make their next big, bold move, the breakout move, I love to call it. Her mission is to empower her clients to step into their authenticity and make positive change towards a happy life. Welcome, Elisa. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, especially on like the Heroes podcast and talking about that journey that we all of us find ourselves in at some point in time in our lives.
So, just to start off, do you want to tell us what was the beginning for you? What were maybe some struggles that you went through before you ended up being the empowerment coach?
um, yeah, I feel like in my life there's kind of been like three like major ones, but the biggest one that really started on my transformational journey and what eventually like led me to coaching was I had I'm Canadian and I had lived in Europe for 11 years and I decided to move countries. So I moved to my big bold move was moving to London, England. And in between, I went traveling. I went backpacking for like 7 months and I was traveling with my boyfriend. And when we got to London, we decided to break up. It was a mentally abusive relationship. So at that time, I didn't really know. I had very low self confidence and self worth, and I didn't really know who I was, or kind of. I didn't really have like much chance to sort of think for myself in the past few years. And I was living at we were at his staying at his brother's place because we just moved to London, and then all of a sudden I had to leave. So there I am with my backpack and my two suitcases, like my whole life in my hands. And I'm on the streets of London, like, oh, okay. And I had like been able to keep a bit of money from the backpacking because 7 months it was a lot of traveling, right? Um, so I didn't really have much money, so I was pretty much broke. I was heartbroken from that, and now I find myself homeless, and I didn't really know anybody either because I had like I kind of knew some like friends of friends, but they weren't really like my people. Like I hadn't really reached out to them, and I didn't have a job yet because I had just gotten there. I didn't look for a job. So for me, that was my absolute rock bottom, and it was the first time that I started to feel the weight of depression. It felt really like heavy, and it was just like I don't know if I'm going to make it in London. It was really tough, and I did eventually find a home. And I remember I was just, looking for jobs or whatever. But I was watching TV one day on the couch. I was like this little tiny couch. It was like super uncomfortable and small. And this woman that I had met in Nepal when I was traveling, she actually lived in London. So she moved back about a month after maybe 2 months after I'd been there. And it was like a cold, dark, rainy day in London. And she texted me being like, let's meet up. And I remember just looking at that text message and I was like, that means I have to like get up, right? And shower and leave my house. I did not want to do that. I just wanted to hide. And she texted me again because she knew I wasn't doing anything. And I just stared at it for a while, but then eventually got up, I went outside in the cold and the rain. And she gave me, when I saw her, we went to this cute little tea shop in Camden, and she gave me this really warm hug, and we went into the tea shop, and I had this peppermint tea and it just smelled divine, and the little place was so cute and quaint. And she asked me what I wanted out of my life in London, like why did you move here, what did you want out of your life there? And I was like, I actually don't know. I was completely stumped by the question because I hadn't really been asked what I wanted in a long time, and was like, oh. And so she suggested that I meditate on it, and that's what really lifted me out of my low state. That really like, so I started to think about it, right? Like, well, what do I want? Like, who do I want to be? What kind of friends do I want? What kind of job do you know? And that kind of just sort of slowly brought me out of it and got me thinking about all these different things. And even though for me it was my rock bottom and like one of the hardest times in my life, it was also like looking back at it, it was this beautifully unique time where I didn't have much external influence. I didn't have like too many pressures, right? Because I was away from family and friends. And so I actually had that time and that space to really think about myself and what I wanted out of my life. And so that was really neat that I got to choose what I wanted and how I wanted to be. And yeah.
What a story. A Nepalese woman and the giant in you in London. And what was the like deep you mentioned depression. Was this abandonment? Like what was going on in your mind in as far as let's say beliefs that were maybe recurring from the past at those places where you could not find a way out or you were in this stuck state? Because what I've heard from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you as you said, you did not have outside influences, and I believe that is a dangerous place when you haven't got an empowering mind. Like, what were the recurring stories or emotions where you spent most of the days before the breakthrough happened?
I think I was uh yeah, some recurring stories I have is that I'm not capable, right? Like that I can't do this. Um that I'm like too stupid, being like you're like I'm stupid is a reoccurring thought that I've had a lot in my mind, especially when like I was applying for jobs and maybe not getting the interviews or getting the interviews but not getting the job. And I think maybe also that I don't know, nobody likes me because I was alone. I felt very alone and isolated. Um, and yeah, I think those are maybe the reoccurring thoughts that were happening in my mind because yeah, I was alone and I didn't have anything. And it was like, maybe it was almost as if that kind of felt right. Like, oh yeah, this is where I should be because nobody likes me and I'm stupid and I'm not capable of being here. And yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Because I think we have so powerful minds, and I guess you agree. But if we are not able to use it the right way, it is tossing us down into an abyss. So,
Mhm.
and what were the factors for you that, let's say, has started you to uplift apart from this wonderful woman? Uh, how did you start to take the path that you are on? What was happening? Did you have clues? Did you look for the better version of you? What was the journey?
Um, well, I think what also kind of reminded me of myself was because when I was just starting my project management career, and so I did this course, and there was a man that was sitting beside me, and I was kind of talking to him like, oh, because I'm obviously Canadian accent, right? So we asked where I'm from, and sort of was mentioning about how hard I was finding it, and he was like, London can eat you whole. Like you got to fight back with London. And he's like, most people, it can take sort of 6 months. And so that kind of gave me a bit of reassurance, being like, okay, I'm not the only one. And that sort of also sparked my competitive nature a little bit of like, oh, actually, like when I give myself a challenge, I am successful. And it reminded me of that. So I think that kind of like sparked that a little bit, like, okay, like this is okay. And and then, yeah, eventually I got a job, and then I took a course with this man named Nicholas Bate, and he was all about like affirmations, and he had all these like 101 lists. And that really kind of got me going with that. And it was also like, he sort of introduced me to mindfulness. And that's when I got like more into meditation and saying those affirmations and like knowing that you can actually start to change your mind and learning about that kind of neuroscience side of it. So I think that's kind of what really got me going on that journey was the meditations and like learning to quiet that chatter, and then also learning to be kind to myself and see and remind myself like, oh yeah, actually I have achieved these things. I can get a job. I am really good at being a project manager, and like that eventually started really boosting my self-confidence and my self-worth. Yeah, I think that's kind of how it
Well,
started.
I'm just wondering, and maybe just a technical question, but I have seen a lot of people doing affirmations, yet uh, they are almost fighting their mind and while they are doing it, because that small inner devil, the voice says, "No way," and, it talks back. And
Yeah.
and did you have those as well, or did you just start it with, because now I understand, if someone is able to meditate, then affirmations actually could work, because I found a lot of people who are struggling with affirmations because, of course, there's a cacophony of voices in their head. Would you say that really was the key for your affirmations to work, that you could quiet yourself and then do the affirmations, or help us?
That's a good point. I'm not sure which one. I think actually maybe I don't know which one came first. I can't recall. But yeah, you're totally right. We have those negative things. And I think that the key with affirmations is that it needs to be something that you believe. So if I think with like, I'm stupid, say like I'm trying something new and I'm like, oh, I'm too stupid for this, I'm just going to give up. Something I could say instead is, I'm learning as I go. But that's true, right? I can believe
Mm.
that. And so every time if I hear I'm stupid, it come up, I can be like, no, actually, I'm learning as I go. Right. And then if I'm saying that instead of saying I'm stupid, then I'm saying I'm stupid less and I'm learning as I go more. So it's just a bit of a way to kind of like try and get yourself out of it. So I think that that's something that it can be something as gentle and kind of sort of compassionate as that, to be something that you actually believe, to pull yourself out of that, to stop the negative. And even if it comes up and you're like, but then I know it to be true. No, I am learning as I go. Right. So every time that comes up, that negative, that little devil comes up, and you be like, no, like, actually, I do know that I'm learning as I go. So you can challenge it. Where sometimes I think people with affirmations, they come up with this big thing like, oh, I'm a genius. Like, okay, I don't know if I believe that I'm a genius.
Mm.
But I do believe that I'm learning as I go. And then eventually that kind of turns into it. Actually, no, I am an intelligent, capable woman. Eventually I got to that.
Love it. That's a very powerful insight from you, because I found that as well. And folks, really listen here, because you could waste years and years. I did that, by the way. That if you're not selling the good enough story to your mind, then you could end up in a loop, and then you just increase this internal battle. So thanks for sharing that, because it's what comes to me is almost like taming the mind, this you know this aggressive child who is sometimes not on our side. And what else was a contributing factor for you to find the coaching journey, if that's what happened after that? Go on with the story.
Yeah. So through after like learning that about mindfulness, and it kind of started to open doors, right? Like it's like when you learn about something, you see it more and more in your life. And there was this weekend coaching introduction thing by this academy that was in London. And I was like, oh, like, and I think I just found it online. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, what, I wonder what that is. Like, let me, see about it. I think actually maybe Nicholas Bate had mentioned something about coaching. And so I went and I learned about it, and I was just so sparked by it. I was so like fascinated by it. And they got us to do exercises for ourselves, like, like the wheel of life and things like that. And then they also at the end, towards the end of day 2, got us to practice. So we had these little coaching sequences, and they were teaching us about really like active listening and things like that. And I was with this woman. And so I was really trying hard to, because like when you first start coaching, a lot of us, if someone's talking with us, we're thinking, right? Oh, I got a story that relates to that, or I got this, right? We want to share, and we want to relate, and so we're in our minds. But with coaching, you need to just like shut that off. And in my certification that I did, it was like, they call it being on someone's map. So get onto their map and like step into them and let all of your stuff go. And then, try and help them within their world. And so you have to quiet that mind and then listen and then ask these really good questions. And so with this woman, that's all I did was I quieted my mind and I just listened to her and conversated with her about her and asked these questions. But like the questions were given to me and she had the same ones. And at the end of this little interaction, she was like, wow, like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I didn't think that I could. And like to her, she had this huge aha moment and this difficulty in her life was like solved. And I was like, I don't know if I did anything. I just asked you the questions that we were told to ask. And I was like, wow, this is really, really powerful to do that, to listen and to ask these really good thought-provoking questions to help people find the answers for themselves. And I just fell in love with it immediately. And so that kind of sparked it. And I started doing a little bit of coaching in London. It was more sort of like either to do with health, because I love running, or I did some volunteer career coaching. But my project management career took off in like the corporate environment that I was in. And so I kind of put it on the back burner for like 7 years before I actually, yeah.
But would you say, and would you say the project management career has taken off because you started to pick up these skills?
Very likely, actually. I don't know if I've ever connected those things because it was all around the same time. Because it was something I was like going for and I was like trying to find it. And then, yeah, eventually, I think you're right. Yeah, I never actually put those two together. I think
Mm,
because I was like, because I had this, like, I wanted that, but I was also very open and to opportunities coming my way.
yeah,
Yeah.
you start a line. I think that because I've heard so many stories, and I have seen some of my peers going back to careers, but jobs that pay double and positions that were just really out of their league, and now they're crushing it because they have cracked how to communicate. They are able to express themselves. They are able to back themselves up. They're showing up. They are present, and of course, with that level of congruence, things just happen for them. And I think
Wow.
there's nothing wrong with that. Although I would say something has taken you out of that mainstream of working for someone else. Now, what was that, and how did that become the thing to move on?
So within that kind of 7 years that I put it on the back burner, I moved back home. So I left London and I moved back to Vancouver. And that was a bit of a hard transition as well because it was I just found myself, I kind of got like roped back into my old life. And I know I was like, oh, I felt as if I was like 15 years, like some of the things I was doing, I was like, oh, like I'm doing the things that I don't do anymore. And I just found myself, it was very strange with like people that I wouldn't choose to hang out with if I was in London. And, I just kind of my world all of a sudden was what I had left 11 years earlier. And so that took a lot of sort of like transition and setting boundaries and you're right, communication, all that to kind of try to create the life that I wanted. And then from there, I was able to see and think more clearly. And this was when COVID hit. And, all of us seemed to have a little bit more time when COVID hit, right? We're all at homes and life kind of shut down. And I feel like a lot of people had that kind of transition periods where they're like, oh, what do I want with my life now? And also by then I moved into like the software development, like tech industry when I came back to Vancouver. And I think by then I was on my fourth company and I was like, what is going on here? Because I'm not happy anywhere that I work. And I was, and I was like, I was always blaming it on something else, like, oh, it's the company, oh, it's the corporate culture, oh, it's this manager, oh, is it that? And then I kind of realized, I was like, you know what? I think it's the job. I think that being a project manager is just not what I want to do anymore, even though I'm very good at it. It's not my passion. And all of a sudden, like, that kind of became a priority. Like, oh, I want to live my passion. And then I was like, oh yeah, that coaching thing that's been in the back of my mind for the last 7 years. Because it kind of always popped up like, oh, not now. Oh, no, not now. And so then I was like, oh yeah. And they have that saying that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And so I did a Google search, and I found the institute that I did my certification through, and immediately like had good rapport with the instructors that do it. And I was like, this is it. And so, yeah, but then I was on like about a 3-year journey from making that decision, like, I'm going to do the coaching now, to starting my certifications, to starting the business. And then just a month and a half ago, leaving the corporate job and doing full-time coaching.
Well, congratulations. And I
You.
understand, and I know what a quantum leap that is in mindset, in inner psychology, to let go of the certainty of the monthly or the weekly paycheck, because that's been a struggle for me too.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that you do? Who are your best looking clients so we can send them to you? Do you want to tell us?
Yeah. So I really, because like I've been talking about, I've made some big, bold moves in my life. And I think that so many of us have these ideas and these dreams that we do want to pursue, but so many things hold us back. And so I really want to help people to break through that and actually like make the big, bold move, achieve the dream. And because I worked in the corporate, like my corporate career was about 23 years. And so I worked with people a lot. So I really like to work with them, sort of the mid to high level professionals who want to finally make that dream happen. And yeah, and you were either they know that they have like a bit of an inkling, like maybe it's just the beginning of a seed starting, like, I want change, I want to, trying to figure out what that is, and then doing it. Or people know, and maybe like, because sometimes we start and then we stop, right? Things hold us back, there's ups and downs, there's setbacks, or fear takes over. And so yeah, so if someone knows what they want, I can help them with that. And not only so I use my coaching skills, with also and helping people build up their self-confidence, that like, yes, you can do this, yes, you can overcome any setbacks. But also using my project management to help create a plan, get crystal clear on the goal, and actually holding someone accountable with the execution of it, step by step by step, as we go along. And then as any ups and downs happen, dealing with those as we go, and kind of looking at as we were talking earlier about the negative chatter, that devil in your mind. And as that comes up, how to deal with that, if maybe we self-sabotage ourselves, how do you sort of become very self-aware that you're doing it, and then how to deal with that and overcome it. And also how to deal with other people that may also get in your way, and how to, like, say no to things and set boundaries, and even find ways to give yourself time back. Because sometimes we think about this thing, we're like, well, my life is already so full, how am I possibly going to do all the things that need to get done to achieve this thing? But there's always ways. So I help people with all of that to make it happen.
One thing came to me as you were sharing this, and relationships came up the second time. And I've got to ask these questions before. I've got something else I really wanted, but has that move back really tested some of those relationships that you had before? Did you find people dropping off and sort of new ones coming in? I think like a lot of people who will listen to this, they have either lived abroad for a few years, or they've done some sort of work outside of their normal environment. How did you deal with that, specifically coming back? And maybe you came across people who have never done anything different for the last 10, 12 years, like you've been around the world, started coaching. What have you got to say to these people who are maybe struggling to manage these relationships?
Um, yeah, there's so much. I think that one of the first things is really being clear on yourself and your values, and where, like, who you are today and what's important to you. Because I think that when we become more aware of that, then we can see kind of our lives a bit and be like, oh, like when I'm with this person, I'm not actually being authentic or living to my values, or when I'm in this situation, like this isn't aligned with who I am and what I want. And then from there you can start to adjust relationships. And um and yeah, and sometimes it can take having a conversation, having a difficult conversation. Sometimes it can just be about setting a boundary with somebody. Sometimes it can just be as simple as saying, like, no, I don't want to do that. Or yeah, so I think that's kind of the things with boundaries, is really about communicating. And if you are secure in yourself and sort of what you want, you can speak to that more when you're trying to set that boundary, have that conversation with somebody. Because then you kind of, you're standing in a more confident, secure place to be like, this is who I am, and this is what I want, this is okay with me, this is not okay with me. Where I think that if we aren't really that self-aware or know where we're coming from, then it can kind of, that conversation can be more difficult, because if someone challenges you, then you might fall back, or say, just kind of let
Mm.
them win. Yeah, I had that, like, when I did move back, and I actually ended up, like, after a few years, I was like, I think I'm just gonna have to let some of these relationships go, which was tough. And then even a couple of them, I just kind of gave myself some space and took a step back, and then thought about, okay, this person's important to me. How do I want this relationship to be? And then I could start shaping it to have it be more aligned to me, and then I could think about, okay, these are conversations I'm going to have. This is what I'll do. This is what I won't do. And it kind of came from that empowered place of reshaping the relationship. And from my perspective, at least, I think the relationship is so much better now than it was. um, yeah, but some people I did need to let go of. They just weren't aligned with who I was anymore. And that's okay.
Beautiful. What I've heard is clarity about yourself and leading that relationship, which most people never do. They just repeat their old self and hope that things will work. But as long as you are able to come up with the outcome that serves you, then it's time to just make that happen. So, what I really wanted to ask is, with your type of uh, client or audience, the people who knows who know they want something different, or they don't know how to do it because they still excusing themselves, what would be 3, 4 things that you would suggest at that point where one is, sitting on the fence of, oh, I should really do this, but I can't. I don't know how to earn money. I'm going to look stupid. What would be 3 or 4 things that you would recommend to these people who are just not there to make that decision?
um, well, I think that looking at your why, if you know kind of what you want and you're on that fence, why do you want what you want? And usually there is some deep down meaningful reason why. And I know in the coaching world, we ask kind of different questions, but if you're just doing it to yourself, you can just ask yourself literally, like, why 5 times? Like, what is the thing behind the thing behind the thing as to why you really want this change? Like, what is going on there? And I feel like if you understand that better, that really can motivate you. And you can always go back to that being like, I'm going to keep moving forward because this is my why. So I think getting clear on your why, and like we talked about earlier, getting clear on what it is that you want for sure, and being like specific about it. Sometimes you might be like, oh, I don't know, I want better relationships, but that's not really a specific thing. Like with who, by how, when. I think, I don't know if you've heard of the SMART goals, like making it specific and measurable and achievable and realistic and timely. So being very specific about what it is that you want. Why do you want it? And like we talked about earlier, doing affirmations, right? So having this kind of like strategy to boost yourself up whenever that negative sort of stuff comes on, is doing like why you can't, or why you can't, why you can, or why you can't. Um, and we talked about boundaries a little bit. So if anybody else kind of gets in your way, how to deal with that to stay strong in what you want and keep moving forward. And I think like a lot of why we stay on the fence always comes down to fear, right? How do we combat that fear? How do we move through it? And actually achieve the goal? Because on the other side of fear is what you want, is this amazingness, is this like fabulous life that you're looking for to achieve that goal. But when we're getting to that sort of fear zone is really when those negative voices and our brain's going off like an alarm, right? Like, this is unsafe, and they freak out. Go back to your comfort zone because it's okay, even though it's not okay. So looking at how to combat fear, and that could even just be like, sort of dissecting it, being like, what is going wrong? Like if I were to look at the best case scenario of what I want, and I looked at the worst case scenario of what I want, and what's kind of actually the likely outcome, or what could I do if the worst case scenario happens? You could actually go through your worries and list them out, like, well, this could happen. Well, this could happen. Okay, if this did, what could be an alternative, or how might I respond? Or, and even challenge it. Is it really going to happen? Because we often make up these scenarios in our heads, don't we? And do they really come true? All of them? Like, not often. If you actually look at it, that catastrophe you made up in your mind doesn't usually come true.
That's so true. I've heard the project manager talking for a few seconds to really have plan B and C, because I still believe that the mind is almost like a lawyer. I call it's stacking. It's putting evidence on both sides. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to us, if you manage that inner conversation well, you could convince yourself that you will be able to handle whatever comes. And you could literally create scenarios with several solutions. But
Yeah, looking at that the best case scenario, right? So maybe focusing on that as opposed to the worst case.
mm, wonderful. And even if it's the worst case, then there's always a way to deal with it. But what comes to my mind is the giveaway that you have recently organized with some of the best coaches. And if you're listening to this, you have probably missed it because the deadline was just yesterday or the day before. Do you want to tell us what you have organized? A beautiful bundle giveaway of really high tech and out of your love, helping a lot of people, and maybe if people reached out to you to just maybe, because I didn't prepare you for that, to give some access to those giveaways that are cutting edge tools to take your life to the next level. Do you want to tell us what was this giveaway?
So I reached out to some of the amazing coaches that I know and have come to love and really admire and respect. And we put together this gift giveaway and it's full. So because so many coaches that I know, we all have specialties in different areas of our lives. So it's really quite widespread, and it's really all about helping you with personal growth and success, to help navigate the peaks and valleys that we go through, right? There's so many ups and downs, and it's really all about elevating your life, so you can feel inspired and empowered, and it's also both on your personal journey and your professional journey. And it's this sort of, because we have to, life is this kind of intricate balance, right, between work and life, and looking at that. So many coaches brought different things. Mine was about prioritizing yourself, and there was ones about sleep, there was ones about food. There was like also like, I think Thanksgiving's coming up. Like, how do you navigate that? Have healthy meals. I don't know if you want to tell everybody what your gift was.
Well, my one was about self-worth and really finding your uh, authentic self. But
Mhm.
as you are in the limelight, what is the giveaway that you want to give away now? And I'm not too sure if it's the same thing or something else. Do you have a free gift to us this time?
Yes, I do. So it is different from the one I had in the gift giveaway. It's called Your Bold Move, and it's 3 tips to really unlock your potential. Because we've been talking about the things that can kind of hold us back, right? So if we're feeling kind of stuck in your career, or maybe uncertain about the future, or afraid to make that change that you desire. And we all know that we're not alone in this, right? We see it a lot, and so we can find ourselves sort of grappling with self-doubt, or maybe even like you feel like you're on the brink of burnout, or just you're on that fence and you're kind of paralyzed with fear. So these 3 tips help you to reclaim your confidence and kind of ignite your passion and start taking steps towards that. So there's actually like little tips in there of things you can actually do to help you with burnout, with fear, and affirmations, of course, is one of them, one of the tips, because I think it's just so powerful.
Thanks for that. And where can we find it? Guys, everything will be under the video, but just tell us, where is your website? If it's on your website, how to find it.
So my website is inspirationbyelisa.com. And that's Elisa, Elisa. If I have to spell it, I used to always just say it. I'm like, oh yeah, no one knows how to spell my name. Inspirationbyelisa.com. And if you like that gift, it's inspirationbyelisa.com/gift. And so you'll be able to download the PDF. But yeah, my website's where you can find about my programs and about me. And there's actually even have a page on there with some downloadable freebies as well. Yeah. And it's the same
Beautiful.
on, if you're looking for me on social media, it's also Inspiration by Elisa.
Fantastic. And of course, we will share under the video your social handles so people can follow you or book a meeting with you or however they want to engage with you. I'm wondering, what did I not ask from you that I should have asked on this conversation?
um, I don't know. I think one thing that kind of maybe we didn't touch on was about um being authentic. We kind of like, I think authenticity is something that a lot of people struggle with as well. I know that I struggled with that too, about like, who is my authentic self? And um, so just like something to say to everybody that we're all perfectly imperfect, right? Like no one's perfect. And even what I might think is perfect, you might not see as perfect, because we're all so different. We all have different perspectives and histories and lives. Um, and so to really love your authentic self, like each and every part of your authentic self, and to really give yourself permission to have what you want in your life and don't let anything hold you back. And that getting support along the way can really help, because it kind of quickens things up. I find like in the times that I didn't get support, I know that especially when I had that huge transition in London, was I sort of grew up with like the shame of getting help. It's like, oh, you do it all on your own. And so that made it a lot harder. And I wish that I had gotten over that shame and just been like, actually, I'm going to reach out for help and support. So I think that's really important. And yeah, just follow your dreams, your authentic dreams, being authentically you. Yeah.
That's a massive one. Thanks for sharing that. Reach out for help. Even if you are conditioned like I was to do it on your own,
Yeah.
because the mind will win over you. Uh, so
Mm-hmm.
one question, because I would love to have this conversation for a few hours, but what would you be celebrating in sort of 3 years time or 5 years time if things went really well for you?
Good one. I have a couple of goals in my mind right now. That I think that in 3 to 5 year time, I think I would have achieved them. Um, so yeah, I think that would be pretty awesome if I could achieve those 3 goals, celebrating that, because I have sort of this vision of how I want, where I want my life to go, and so I think in 5 years I could achieve it. So that's what I would be celebrating, my new existence.
I love it. But I'm a coach too. So do you want to be more specific to to
To what my
tell us?
goals are?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what would happen? Like maybe are there an X amount of people that impacted, or is there any more that you want to share? Let's put it out there if you're comfortable.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if I could achieve this in 3 years or 5 years, but my like big sort of goal is that um well, I'm an animal lover. I love, and I also like contribute to charities that help with animals like that are maybe abused or neglected. And so I would like to help 10,000 people so that I can help 10,000 animals. That's sort of
That's
like my big goal. I'm not sure if it's possible in 5 years time, but that's like my big thing that I was like, I would love to do that, so that, because I think the more people I help, um, therefore I get more revenue that I can give to more charities to help animals as well. So it's kind of works both with both.
it's beautiful. I'm conscious of the time,
Mm.
and probably I'll ask one last question. Is there one last uh, golden nugget for us that you want to give to the audience before we finish?
Um, I think that we've talked a lot about making change, right? And everything, like so much of what I do is all about making change, but it can take time. And so I think that we need to be patient with ourselves, right? It takes committing to something, right? And doing the work consistently. Like we were talking about those devils that can come up in your mind, right? They're always going to be battling with you. And they're never going to go away. But if you can consistently, be saying those positive things to yourself, you'll say the negative things that they will continue to pop up. You can quiet them faster. And so it takes doing the work consistently, it takes being committed. So yeah, so be patient with yourself and know that there's going to be ups and downs, and yeah, just keep moving forward.
Elisa, thank you very much for your time, and you will
Thank you
have
so
all.
much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks very much, and hope to see you again.
Yes, you too. Thank you.